Hi there. Have you ever said, I wish I didn't feel this way? Sometimes we have certain feelings that we wish we didn't have that feeling, particularly at a period of time. Maybe you were angry in a traffic or anxious before a presentation, or you were jealous because someone else got recognized instead of you. Possibly you deserve the recognition, but you overlooked. Or sometimes you can become sad for reasons that you can't fully explain. And when sad things happen, we usually see emotions as an interruption to our day. Why am I having these emotions, these feelings at this point in time? But what if emotions are not interruptions, but they are rather instructions? What if? I just want you to think about it. Emotions are really not enemies, they are the internal notification system. They serve as our internal notification system. Yes, they notify us on things that we need to give attention to hearing and there. Welcome to Streams of Emotions. My name is Moses. You can call me Mo for short, and I'm really glad you are here with me again. This is episode 12, and what we're looking at is why emotions matter more than you think. Someone may ask, why do we have emotions in the first place? Why did God create us with emotions? Why didn't He just create us to be logical beings without emotions so that we can't even have those sad emotions or whatever? We can't be angry, anxious, depressed. Why did God give us emotion at all? Why do we have it? Why do we laugh? Why do we cry? Why do we love? Why do we worry? Why do we celebrate, grieve, and even have that feeling to hope for something better? Sometimes it backfires, but why do we have that emotion at all? You see, there are a lot of reasons that we can give to that, but even before I move to that, I want you to understand that there are general misunderstanding about having emotions. Some people think that when you have emotions, you are just being weak. People who they use words like, oh, stop being emotional, think logically, don't let your feeling control you. Yes, I understand that sometimes feelings can become very overwhelming and you may not know how to control your feelings and it can be disturbing. However, I want to emphasize that without emotions, good decision making becomes almost impossible without emotion. In episode 4, that is the hidden force behind every choice, we realize how important our emotion is behind the choices we make. So we need them to make choices in life. Okay, so there are research that has been done to emphasize some of these works, and one of the research, the famous one, is by the neuroscientist Antonio Damasio, and he did a research studying on individuals who had issues with their brain. And there is one particular person that he studied called Elliot. And what happened is that Elliot suffered a damage to his frontal lobes from his brain tumor that he had. After the brain tumor, they tested him and they realized that his IQ was very high. However, Elliot struggled to make a decision in that he was able to calculate things, analyze things very carefully, look at the nitty gritty, and make perfect, analysis of something. But he found it very difficult to make decisions, such as simple as where to sit or which pen to use or those things. Why? Because he wasn't in touch with his emotional part of his being. So he was making logical, he was analyzing it logically. However, he was unable to decide because he lost touch with the emotions. That was what the research was all about. So, what do we learn from this? Emotions help us to decide what matters. Yes. For instance, fear tells you that danger matters, so you give attention when you fear to anything dangerous. Love tells you that relationship matters, so you give attention to your relationship. Anger tells you that something feels unfair, so you give attention to what matters. Sadness will tell you that something valuable has been lost. So the point is this: without emotion, life becomes information without meaning. That is the reality. Emotions are the language through which our mind tells us what is important or what needs our attention. They give meaning to life. It's very important. So, emotions, if they are not mistakes, then what exactly are they? I've already explained this in what I've said, but I want you to understand that emotions also help us survive. Imagine you are walking alone at the night at a place and you hear a footsteps behind you. Before you consciously analyze the situation, your heart begins racing, and that will tell you that fear is building up. And that fear is sharpening your attention and it's going to help you decide on how to move yourself in a way that if there is a danger ahead, that danger will not harm you. So, what the fear is doing is it's not trying to ruin your evening, but it's trying to protect you. That is why I'm saying that emotions are actually they are meant to protect us, they are meant to help us survive, they are meant to make our life better. So without a fear, you would have taken some dangerous risk that would have ended in a very bad way. Without fear, we would have ignored threats. Without fear, we would have been exposed to unnecessary harm. So the fear is meant to keep you keep us from all kinds of harm, and that is what has preserved generations up to now. Fear and even feelings like anxiety. Sometimes we are anxious about things. A student who is anxious about an exams may possibly prepare more for the exams and will eventually pass. So the anxiety actually served a good purpose. So emotion can serve a good purpose if you allow it. Okay. So let's also look at another thing that may be the second thing I'll talk about, that emotions guide our decision. Emotions are very important in guiding our decision. Once again, we don't just make logical decisions, but we also make decisions based on what we feel about those decisions. Let's say you may have the same job offers, or they may pay the same salary, or they may have similar benefit. How do you choose? Like the Elliot situation, he found it hard to choose because that part of the brain wasn't functioning. But we are able to choose because of our emotions. How do you feel about a deal? Sometimes you may even have a job that is paying less, but you have a feel about that job, and so you choose that. This is what psychologists refer to it as the somatic marker. Somatic marker, and it's simply your emotional experience creates some mental shortcuts that helps you evaluate choices quickly, and we all have it. So when you don't feel right about something, you just ignore. It's our somatic marker. It is just marking the things that is happening around us and it's serving as our internal guidance system, guiding us to choose what is best for us. Let's look at a typical example of the life of Simone Biles. Most people might know her. She's very good when it comes to the Olympic Games. And at a point in time of her life, she had to prioritize her health because she was struggling with the twisties. When you talk about twisties, it's just a psychological block that causes the gymnasts to lose their spatial awareness, particularly while they are in air. So when they are having such experience, it's difficult for them to focus as they are unable to give out their best. So Simone Biles was experiencing this thing, and at the point she had to withdraw herself from the women's final team and other individual events. This happened in 2021. So when this happened, she just withdrew. She told the team she couldn't carry on with it, and so she withdrew. Why does this matter for our topic today, our studies today? Because emotions can serve as warning lights. Yes. And in episode 7, we learned that your body is speaking. Are you listening to it? So Simon listened to what her body was speaking to her. And it helped her. Yes, she couldn't partake in 2021 Olympics. But what happened is that after listening to those emotional and mental signals, she was able to gain that wisdom, and she came back in 2024 and she did extremely well. She got about 3 gold medals. This is the point. Emotions are like signals, and ignoring them does not solve the issues that they are signaling. So the goal is not to get rid of your emotions, but the goal is to get better at listening to them and using them. So, some of the practical ways that can help us with what we're speaking about today is that when you feel something strongly or when you feel an emotion within, ask yourself these questions, some of these questions. What triggered this? What trigger? It's very important to know the trigger. When you learn about the Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, you realize the importance that we need to give to triggers. Also, you need to ask yourself, what is the need that your emotion is calling you to meet? And these are some of the questions we can ask ourselves in our day to day life to help us learn and understand our emotion. This is what we're trying to say today. I want you to know this. You are created not to be emotionless. You are created to be emotionally aware of your current feeling or your current state. Every emotion has a purpose. The challenge is not eliminating the emotion, but the challenge is understanding them and using them in a way that will make your life better. Because when your life becomes better, you are able to navigate life with great wisdom, compassion, and purpose. Thank you for joining me on Streams of Emotions. Until next time, learn about your emotions, listen to them, and use them productively instead of allowing them to manipulate you. Have a wonderful time. Bye.